Well, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson making a late-night phone call to his Turkish counterpart as tensions escalate over that Persian Gulf and Arab blockade of Qatar. You know, the small Arab nation's been entirely cut off from its Arab neighbors for allegedly funding Islamist terrorist groups. The blockade causing some unintended humanitarian consequences, we're told. But will it force Qatar to change its ways? And what do the tensions there mean in our fight against ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism? Ambassador Dennis Ross joins us. He's a former Special Middle East coordinator, Fox News foreign affairs analyst and author of the book Doomed to Succeed, and he joins us today from Tel Aviv. Ambassador, first of all, can you tell us how bad is Qatar? I mean, they say it funds and gives shelter to the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas leaders, and as the president said, Qatar backs terrorism on a, quote, very high level.
Qatar has tried to play a double game. On the one hand, they allow us to use a very large base, and they help to make major contributions to that. That base itself is one that is really the place from which we conduct all air operations throughout the whole theater, from basically as far as Afghanistan into Syria and so forth. So on the one hand, Qatar provides obviously a level of support to what we're doing in terms of carrying on the fight against al-Qaeda and ISIS. On the other hand, they're very supportive of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're very supportive of Hamas. They welcome the Taliban. There's no question that historically they actually have provided funding for terrorist groups. In the last year, we've seen them begin to quietly go after some of the entities that the U.S. Treasury Department has singled out. So they have been responsive in that respect. But they also provide a huge platform through Al Jazeera to create a kind of legitimacy for radical Islamist views. And I can tell you, back when I was in the Obama administration, during the conflict in Libya, they were providing money and arms to the Islamist groups in Libya, the very ones that we did not want to see develop any kind of support. So what you're seeing is an effort on Qatar's part to have it both ways. What you see the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Bahrainis, and the Egyptians doing is saying, enough of that. That has to stop. I think one of our problems right now is it seems that the administration is really sending mixed messages. The president has been very tough, as you noted, in singling out Qatar and supporting what the Saudis are doing. We see the Secretary of State saying, look, we need to stop or at least de-escalate. The boycott is causing problems not only from a humanitarian standpoint, but from the standpoint of our military operations, and we really need to bring this under control. I can understand the need to do that, but it can't be done in a way that in the end allows Qatar a way to keep doing what it's doing.
Well, do you think that they will stop having it both ways? What you just said was astounding, and not just the support for the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, but also for the Taliban, which just took credit for killing 3 of our Army Rangers. Do you think Qatar can actually possibly reform, or do we potentially risk the threat of having our air base, the largest in the region, you know, kicked out of there that we need to use in our fight against ISIS in Iraq and Syria?
They won't kick us out because they see the reason they allow us to use the base is because they see it as a not so subtle indication that the United States is providing a security guarantee to them. That gives them, on the one hand, a kind of assurance and a license to do what they're doing on the other hand. I think the key here, Eric, is that we need to be the ones communicating to them that we won't continue to use this base. We will be prepared to look for alternatives and develop alternatives. They want this as a source of their security. They need to understand, unless they change their ways, they're putting that at risk. You ask the question, will they change their ways? Only if they see that the real cost with us is one that begins to raise questions about their security as they define it.
And that may be happening already. Let me read you something from Heratz. The Qatar foreign minister said this: the U.S. views Hamas as a terrorist organization, but to the rest of the Arab nations, it is a legitimate resistance movement. We do not support Hamas, he says. We support the Palestinian people. Now, it goes on to say, shortly after the break in ties emerged, Qatar confirmed that a number of top Hamas officials who were using the country as their base had left amid pressure on the oil-rich Gulf nation. So it seems they may be getting the message incrementally. What do they need to do to get it fully?
Well, I think that would be a start. But they can't allow Al Jazeera to be used as a platform that it is right now to spread a message that basically legitimizes and makes okay a radical Islamist thought. I mean, that's one point. Another point, as I said, they have put out the welcome mat for the Taliban within Qatar. That too has to stop. It can't be that they wink at these groups or even provide them a kind of tacit support and at the same time are part of the broader coalition to be fighting these very forces.
And do you think
that's what I mean by you can't continue to have it both ways?
Do you do you think that will happen? That they'll get the message from the president that they've got to stop the support?
Well, I think it's good that he's sending that message. I worry a little bit about countervailing messages. It's not just the Secretary of State. The Defense Department put out the other day, in a sense, a position in which they were lauding the contribution that Qatar is making to our broader efforts in the region. So as long as if we send mixed messages, they will think they have a way out. Our message has to be a very consistent one, and then I think the chance of getting them to transform themselves and change their positions, that goes up dramatically.
And how would we make that message, as you say, consistent?
Well, one thing is that there has to be, in fact, I think, one song sheet. Everybody has to be singing off the same sheet of music when we speak to the Qataris. They have to understand, look, the American position is going to be, you can be a partner of the United States, but then you can't continue to be a partner to Hamas, to the Muslim Brotherhood, and you can't be putting out on Al Jazeera a network that they subsidize, a countervailing message. So I think the way to underpin this is to make it clear they can't count on us preserving the base in Qatar. If that's, from their standpoint, is the source of their security, they have to understand they're putting that at risk. Unless we communicate that, not just having everybody singing off the same sheet of music, but make it very clear they're putting at risk what they themselves see as a source of their security. That, I think, is the best way to impress upon them they're running a risk and the price is unacceptable as they define it.
Well, we certainly hope they get that message. Ambassador Dennis Ross from Tel Aviv on this Sunday. Ambassador, always good to see you. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Thank you.